There is a version of dining in the UK that has absolutely nothing to do with a Sunday roast, a Michelin guide, or anything you've ever considered a nice meal out. We're talking about restaurants where the cheapest thing on the table is the napkin, where a single potato, just a potato, is the most talked about dish in the country, where you can be charged £350 for a dinner you never even showed up to. Today, we're covering the 7 most expensive restaurants in the United Kingdom. And before you say, that can't be real, it is. Every single number in this video is accurate, which somehow makes it worse. 7. The Waterside Inn, Bray, Berkshire. £265 per person, food only. Wine is a separate problem. We start in Bray, Berkshire, a village of roughly 5,000 people sitting quietly along the River Thames, approximately 30 miles outside London. You've probably never thought about Bray in your life. Bray has more Michelin stars per square mile than almost anywhere on Earth. The Waterside Inn sits on the bank of the Thames and has held 3 Michelin stars continuously since 1985. Not since last year, not since the 90s, since 1985. That is 40 consecutive years at the very top of British dining, making it the only restaurant outside France to retain 3 Michelin stars for that long without interruption. It started as, in the words of the current chef patron, Alain Roux, a shabby pub with a damp, muddy kitchen floor. His father, Michel Roux, and Uncle Albert took that pub and turned it into one of the most decorated restaurants on the planet. When they celebrated 25 years at 3 stars, they threw a party and invited every Michelin-starred chef in the United Kingdom. 116 chefs attended. That's not a celebration, that's a coronation. The food is classic French haute cuisine, impeccable sauces, pan-fried lobster medallions, dishes that have been on the menu for decades because nobody has ever managed to improve them. The dining room overlooks the Thames. The Queen has eaten here. At £265 per person before wine, this is the entry point on today's list. The entry point. 6. Sketch, Mayfair, London. £235 for 3 courses. Add the full drinks pairing and your bill hits £620 plus tip. The building that houses Sketch on Conduit Street in Mayfair used to be Christian Dior's London Atelier. Before that, it was a Georgian townhouse. At some point, someone looked at it and thought, this needs egg-shaped toilets. That someone was restaurateur Murad Mazous, who in 2002 opened Sketch and spent £12 million renovating it from an original budget of just £3 million. £9 million over budget for a restaurant in Mayfair. Nobody blinked. Today, Sketch houses 2 restaurants, 2 bars, an art gallery, and a patisserie, all under one roof. The lecture room and library upstairs is where the 3 Michelin stars live. It is also, for the record, one of the most photographed interiors in the world. People book tables specifically to get a photo in the pink room. The food is almost secondary to the Instagram opportunity, which is either a marketing triumph or a culinary tragedy, depending on who you ask. The 3-course a la carte will cost you £235. That's before you touch the wine list. If you order the special treat menu, 8 courses paired with 8 wines curated specifically for each dish, your bill tops out at £620 before the 12.5% service charge, before a coffee, before you even think about dessert wine. The interior is redesigned by a commissioned artist every 18 months. You're not just paying for dinner, you're paying for access to a place that will look completely different by the time you can afford to come back. Number 5. Core by Claire Smith, Notting Hill, London. £255 for the tasting menu. Cancel within 72 hours and you're charged £175 per person for a dinner you didn't eat. Claire Smith was Gordon Ramsay's head chef at his flagship Chelsea restaurant, the one that's been holding 3 Michelin stars since 2001. She didn't just work there, she ran it. She was the person keeping those stars polished while Ramsay was on television shouting at people. Then she left, opened her own place in Notting Hill in 2017, won 3 Michelin stars in 2021, became the first female chef to hold and retain 3 Michelin stars in the United Kingdom. She then proceeded to make a potato famous. The potato in roe, which is exactly what it sounds like, a potato served with herring roe in a cultured cream, is the most talked about dish at Core. Not the lobster, not the wagyu, a potato, dressed up with such precision and technique that food critics write paragraphs about it the way other people write about sunsets. The tasting menu is £255 per person. The a la carte is £195. Hardin's restaurant guide described the experience as stratospheric pricing and then immediately called it entirely worthy. One reviewer's exact words, "We had to sell the kids, of course, but it was worth it." Now here's the detail that puts Core in a category of its own. Their cancellation policy charges you £175 per person if you cancel within 72 hours. For 2 people, that's £350 in cancellation fees. For a dinner you will never eat. For food you will never taste. Charged to your card automatically. This is not an inconvenience fee. This is a fine for changing your mind. Number 4. The Ledbury, Notting Hill, London. £285 per person for dinner, with wine pairing closer to £425. Brett Graham is Australian, from Newcastle, New South Wales specifically. He moved to London in his early 20s, having won Young Chef of the Year in Sydney, and decided that the right move was to open a restaurant in Notting Hill and compete with people who had spent their entire careers in the world's most demanding kitchens. He is now the first Australian chef owner in history to hold 3 Michelin stars. The Ledbury opened in 2005, earned its first star within a year, and by 2010 had 2. Then, COVID happened. Graham shut the doors in 2020 because the social distancing requirements made running the restaurant properly impossible. Michelin stripped the stars. He lost them both. He reopened in 2022 with a redesigned dining room and something no other restaurant in London has, a fungarium, a cabinet of mushrooms grown in-house, on-site, specifically for the kitchen. He also farms 600 Iberian pigs crossed with Duroc, supplying not just the Ledbury, but top restaurants across the country. He didn't just come back, he came back and built a farm. In 2024, the new Michelin Guide was announced. The Ledbury received 3 stars. The room at the ceremony reportedly gave him the loudest applause anyone had ever heard at a Michelin event. 3 stars, returned from nothing in 2 years. Hardin's 2026 guide names it the best restaurant in London. The tasting menu is £285 per person. The Michelin inspector described it as a happy restaurant where flashiness is traded for wholehearted enjoyment. A 3 Michelin-starred restaurant described as happy, that's rarer than the stars themselves. 3. Alain Ducasse at the Dorchester, Mayfair, London. £250 to £285 for the tasting menu. Wine pairing up to £500 extra. Alain Ducasse holds more Michelin stars than any other chef alive, 21 across his restaurants in Paris, Monaco, and London. He is, by any reasonable measure, the most decorated chef in the history of fine dining. His London outpost sits inside the Dorchester Hotel on Park Lane, overlooking Hyde Park. It opened in 2009, and Michelin awarded it 2 stars immediately on opening. They upgraded it to 3 in 2010. The food is contemporary French haute cuisine, the kind of cooking where a single scallop arrives in a pool of citrus beurre blanc with crystal caviar on top, and the description on the menu is somehow still an understatement. For those who want a private experience, there is the Table Lumiere, a special table set inside the restaurant, surrounded by 4,500 individually placed fiber optic lights. You don't just eat dinner, you eat dinner inside a constellation. The tasting menu runs £250 to £285 per person. The wine pairing can add another £500. A realistic bill for 2 people with drinks, service, and coffee will exceed £1,000 without dramatic effort. The Dorchester itself is a £500 per night hotel. Ducasse is the restaurant you go to when the hotel lobby feels casual. 2. Restaurant Gordon Ramsay, Chelsea, London. £260 for the carte blanche menu. Realistic total with wine, £500 per person. Gordon Ramsay opened his flagship Chelsea restaurant in 1998 at 68 Royal Hospital Road. He earned 3 Michelin stars in 2001 and has held them without interruption since, making it the longest-running 3 Michelin-starred restaurant in the United Kingdom. Here's what that means. Through the financial crisis, through multiple recessions, through a global pandemic, through every shift in food culture and fine dining trends for the past 25 years, this restaurant has never once dropped below 3 stars, not for 1 year. Every single Michelin guide since 2001 has awarded it 3. Now here's the detail most people don't know. Gordon Ramsay doesn't cook there. The current head chef is Kim Racharoen, who joined the restaurant in 2015, worked up to senior sous chef, and was appointed head chef in 2022. She runs the kitchen. She creates the menus. She is the reason the stars stay. Gordon Ramsay has his name on the door, his face in the marketing, and his signature dishes on the menu. But the person delivering 3 Michelin star cooking every single service is Kim Racharoen, while Ramsay is filming his 14th television series somewhere. The carte blanche menu is £260 per person, a bespoke, surprise tasting menu where the kitchen decides what you eat. The prestige menu is £210. A la carte 3 courses is £180. The wine list has over 500 labels, a median bottle price of £480, and exactly 6 wines under £100. 6 out of 500. The restaurant seats 44 people total. 44 seats, 3 Michelin stars, and a wine list that treats £100 as the entry level for modesty. The Fat Duck, Bray, Berkshire. £295 to £450 per person, and it's worth every single pound. We come back to Bray. Heston Blumenthal opened the Fat Duck in August 1995 with himself and 1 dishwasher. He was serving steak and lemon tarts. Nobody outside the village knew it existed. Today, the Fat Duck has 42 kitchen staff and seats 42 diners, 1 chef for every single person at every single table. The ratio at most restaurants is the opposite. Here, the kitchen outnumbers the dining room. In 2005, World's 50 Best Restaurants named the Fat Duck the best restaurant in the world. Not the best in the UK, not the best in Europe, the best restaurant on the entire planet, a converted 16th century cottage in Berkshire. Best in the world. The tasting menu runs from £295 to £450 per person, depending on the menu and season. For that, you receive approximately 3.5 hours of something that is not quite dinner, not quite theater, and not quite science, but is somehow all 3 at once. One dish, Sound of the Sea, arrives as seafood on a plate of edible sand made from tapioca and breadcrumbs. Alongside it comes a conch shell. Inside the shell is an iPod. You put in the earbuds and listen to crashing waves as you eat. The sound, Blumenthal's research found, measurably changes how you taste the seafood. The ocean you're hearing makes the dish taste more intensely of the sea. This is not a gimmick. This is a decade of research. Another dish is called mock turtle soup. It involves a gold leaf-covered fob watch made entirely of freeze-dried beef stock, dissolved tableside in a cup of hot beef tea. It is inspired by Alice in Wonderland. It is served at dinner. It is £400 per person. The restaurant has a dedicated research laboratory 2 doors down the street from the dining room. Blumenthal and his team develop dishes there for years before they reach a table. The egg and bacon ice cream took months of flavor encapsulation experiments. The snail porridge required an investigation into the principles of pairing oats with French gastropods. Nothing arrives at the Fat Duck that hasn't been scientifically interrogated first. In 2009, the Fat Duck suffered the largest norovirus outbreak ever recorded at a single restaurant. Over 400 diners fell ill. The restaurant closed. Blumenthal submitted himself to a public health investigation, cooperated fully, reopened, and came back with the same 3 stars, the same menus, and the same level of obsession. Some places survive a scandal. The Fat Duck treated it like a quality control problem and fixed it. As of 2025, Blumenthal is celebrating the restaurant's 30th anniversary. He is spending more time in the kitchen than he has in 2 decades. The current menus cost between £225 and £450 per person, the highest regular price on this entire list, and for a 3.5-hour journey through one man's complete reimagining of what food can be, that number feels less like a price and more like a commitment. And that's the list. 7 restaurants, 7 different ways to spend money you perhaps should have kept. From a riverside French institution that has outlasted 4 decades of British prime ministers, to a Berkshire cottage where a man dissolved a gold watch in your soup and called it dinner. The UK's most expensive restaurants don't just charge you for food, they charge you for the kind of meal you'll still be talking about when everything else from that year has been forgotten. Whether that's worth £450 a head is entirely up to you. The restaurants already know the answer.